Welcome, everyone, to Digital Bromads. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Steve. What time is it there?
It is almost 7 p.m. here. Yeah, how about you?
It's about to be noon, so you can say good morning to me for about 2 more minutes.
Nice. Man, how about that daylight savings time, huh? My favorite thing about that is like people act like it happens every 6 months for our entire lives, and every time it happens, people act like it's never happened before. They're like, "What the hell? Oh, my sleep schedule is so off and all this stuff." And I'm like, first of all, 1 hour is not that much, but like it's not like it's never happened before, guys. It's not that
Yeah,
crazy.
it's like talking about the weather. They just like that. That's all. Okay, let's talk about daylight saving. Let's talk about how we didn't get any
Oh,
sleep last night.
dude, in the corporate world, daylight savings is a big topic. Oh yeah, for like stupid conversations.
Yeah, when you got your 5 meetings lined up for the day, you beat that horse. Yeah. But okay, for me, this time around, I know we just said that it always sneaks up on you, but like for me, I didn't even know it happened until like someone else told me that it happened. Like until I got the joke laid on me. Like I
Well, this day and
genuinely
age,
had
it's
no
not
idea.
it's not like we have that many clocks in our lives besides like our phones and computers that automatically update themselves. So like back in the day, yeah, you had to manually update all the clocks. Now, like those just do it themselves, so I don't really think about it much.
That must be it because it's like, oh, I don't know. I didn't know. Okay, so this is the thing, right? Like not to sound irresponsible, but I don't actually use an alarm to wake up in the morning. Like I don't know if
That's
that's like a
what?
nomad thing or that's just like a Jack thing, but like I don't. So I just woke up and I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm good. Like I'm a little tired, but like this is about the time I normally wake up in the morning, so like here we go. Like let's get after the day.
Wow. Okay, I don't trust myself enough to do that. I do need to have an alarm, otherwise I'd probably just sleep all day. I don't
Really?
know. I don't
Well,
I guess I'll try.
I have this problem like if I have something to do in the morning, I and this is totally self-inflicted, but like I have some, it's like I got to wake up at 8, right? And then like throughout the night, I'm like, "Oh my God, did I oversleep? Did I oversleep?" Like and I end up like waking up early even though I could have just set an alarm. It's kind of weird.
I don't know if my brain works like that, but maybe I can try it. But wait, tell me about your weekend, Jack. Didn't you do something weird?
I mean, for Halloween, I like went to like this like masquerade party where it's like apparent, you wear one of those masks that looks like a sort of in like V for Vendetta, but like not as creepy.
Right. I've really only seen this on TV. I didn't know people did this in real life.
Yeah, so I go, right, it's at this fancy hotel in Miami Beach or whatever, and I don't have my like the person I went with is like has my mask for me, right? Because they invited me to this party, okay? And they tell me, okay, Jack, like wear all black because your mask is gonna be like silver and it's gonna like go well with it. And I'm like, okay, whatever, like that's fine. It's just the funny part was that I get to the place first, and so I'm waiting for the person who invited me. And so I'm at the bar, right? And the only thing I can think about is that I look like a waiter. Like because I'm just wearing like black slacks and like a black shirt and like nothing else at a Halloween party. And it's like, dude, I need this mask. Otherwise, people are going to start asking me for like hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah. That's good. Well, was it fun?
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, it was like a free drinks and free food type of situation. So you really can't. They had some sort of drink that was in a pumpkin. So they would like put the ladle in the pumpkin. And so I thought I mean, that was a nice touch. So
That's cool. I think the first time I smoked weed was actually out of a pumpkin. Like we made a bong out of a pumpkin. Yeah.
wow. Oh my,
We'll
did it
we'll cut
work?
this part so people don't think I'm like a druggie, but yeah. Oh, it worked.
We
Yeah.
all have
Oh,
a
it worked.
past. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
good. Well, speaking of your past, like did you do anything this weekend?
Yeah, so I actually went out to South African wine country to the town of Stellenbosch. It's a beautiful,
It's kind of famous, isn't it?
sort of Dutch colonial town, very cute. It's a university town as well. Stellenbosch University is out there. But it's in the mountains. It's just a beautiful area. And what they have there is a wine train. Okay, so this is a hop on, hop off train. And it just
Okay.
takes you to all the vineyards around this area, and it's great because like you're drinking the whole time, like you get off at each vineyard, whatever you have, wine, cheese, whatever you want to get at this vineyard, and then you just hop back on. You have a sober ride because it's a train, so you just hop back on the train, go to the next winery. It was really well done, super consistent. Like it's every half hour it stops at each winery. But you can choose to stay longer than a half hour. I think the last one we were really enjoying ourselves. We met some people we were talking to, so we stayed there for like 2 hours, but then just got back on the train and went back. It was awesome.
Wow, that sounds super cool. So, and on the train, is it like a cool train? Like, what's kind of the vibe on the train there?
It is very cool. It's not like your typical dirty, don't think of something like in New York City subway type of thing. Like this is a really polished, nice looking train, nice seats. There's people kind of talking over the intercom. It's kind of like a tour a little bit. Like they'll just give you fun facts about each winery that you're going to. You have a map and you can see which wineries you want to go to. Yeah, it was awesome. Definitely recommend. And of course, we're just drinking the best wine in South Africa. It was wonderful. Really good experience.
Is it like expensive or was it like
Um,
pretty reasonable or
it's pretty reasonable. The train itself was really cheap, like to just get a ticket to the train for the day. Obviously, it's not all inclusive. Like when you get to the wineries, you need to buy their wine.
Mm.
But it's Africa. I mean, we're going to talk later, I think, about the inexpensive way that we live our lives. So we'll get to that. But yeah, the wine is definitely cheaper than it would be in California if you were out in Napa Valley or something like that. So
Yeah, that's great. Okay, do they have like a particular kind of wine that like they all had, or is it like all different, like kind of normal
not that I
varietals?
noticed.
Or okay.
Yeah, they had pretty normal variety, white wines, red wines. We did a lot of flights when we went to these places
Oh,
so we could sample. And I
nice.
love wineries. It makes me feel so classy. Like you get a flight or maybe just a glass, but like the server always tells you about the wine. Like, oh, these grapes, the skin of these grapes is like this. These vines were over here. He'll like point to the vine. He's like, actually, it came from those vines right there. I'm like, oh, cool. And they tell you all these fun facts, and like I have no idea what they're even saying most of the time. I'm just drinking my wine. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, totally. The season, the climate, all this stuff. But it makes me feel like I'm doing something classy and I'm being educated. So
That sounds great. I mean, I love drinking. I feel like after an hour of drinking wine, I don't know if it tastes, berries or chocolate. I just I just know it tastes
I'm I'm
good.
I'm trying, dude. Sometimes I drink wine and they could tell me anything. They could be like, this one has nodes of, yeah, like you said, chocolate or almonds. And I'm just like, yeah, I totally taste that. I feel like once you hear someone say it, then it makes
It
your
like
palate like think, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I can kind of taste. But they could have said completely the opposite. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, for sure, vanilla. I taste that.
it's just a really slight undercurrent. Very
Yeah,
very low
undercurrent.
amount.
Yeah. So, but that was
That
fun.
sounds great. That sounds honestly, it's a very cultural yet fun situation.
Yeah. We also went to this beach town. We were sitting in a restaurant. This is different from the wine tour. This was a couple days before.
Okay.
We were sitting outside of the patio of a restaurant, and a couple kids with like holes in their clothes walked up to us, and they were like, "Hey, can you help us out with like money or food or something?" And I always just default to saying no immediately whenever someone comes up to me. I've kind of been jaded from traveling so much. I'm just like, no. My answer is always just no.
Yeah.
So we kind of just got freaked out and we just moved inside of the restaurant and ate inside it instead, which was horrible. I mean, it was just bad timing. Like we had just sat down, we had just gotten our food. Like I wanted to help these kids because I was like, first of all, I don't have any cash, and they were like, well, that's fine. We can go to the store that's like a block away from here, and you can buy us food. And I was just like, dude, like I just got, this noodle dish. Like I can't like leave this thing right now. So we go inside the restaurant, and then immediately after we're done eating, immediately after we come out, the kids just pop out of nowhere and they're like,
Oh
"Hey,
shit.
sir," and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And because we had already discussed it while we were eating in the restaurant, Alita and I, and we're like, "Look, if we see the kids again, let's just go into the store and we'll buy them some stuff." And we did. So they popped out, and I was like, "All right, just come with us to the store." It's a group of like three kids at this point, and
How
we
old were
go into
they?
the store. This kid like knows the drill. Like he gives me a basket. He goes, "Here, hold this." He gives me the shopping basket, and he just takes me around the store, and he's just like throwing shit into my shopping basket. I buy him a whole rotisserie chicken, a loaf of bread, 3 bags of chips, and then like we're walking, and then one of the kids is like, "Wait, I don't like these. I don't like salt and vinegar chips." And I was like, "Hey, me either. I understand." So he goes and gets some Cool Ranch Doritos instead.
It's not a bad choice.
Um, and and then they get some cookies. I'm like, all right. Then we're at the checkout counter, and they start like throwing more shit like last second and I was like, all right, I gotta cut this off at some point, otherwise you're just never gonna stop throwing stuff up here. So finally I was like, all
Yeah.
right, we're good.
Yeah.
Oh, and the best part, we walk into the store and with the little kids, and this like old homeless man, like who wasn't with these kids,
Yeah.
starts following us into the store too. And he's like, "Hey, can I get in on this?" And I was like, "Okay, wait, no, this is not a free for all. These kids are cute. Like you're a creepy old man. Like I'm sorry. Like
Yeah.
I don't know." So I said no to the old man, but I bought the kids food, and we just went about our day. But that's just an interesting experience. That type of thing can happen in Africa, and it was fine. Again, it's not like it was a lot of money or whatever. Like, and it meant a lot to them more than it did to us. So yeah, it's all good. But that was just something that happened.
Well, I think, yeah, that's nice of you to do that. I think it's pretty on brand for you, you getting food in front of you, like, not right now, guys. Like, I'm about to eat this. Like, there's no way I'm letting this out of my
Yeah.
sight.
All right, now, Jack, I have a thing I found from Reddit today, and this one is very near and dear to our hearts. So I'll read the post. It was a top post in the travel section of Reddit. The poster says, "I'm done with TripAdvisor. Google Maps is the best travel and tourism app." And that's the whole post. And I'm just like, well, yeah, no shit. I mean, Jack, we've been on this for years. Like, we are TripAdvisor haters.
It's
Am I
like the
right?
list of things not to do. It's like if it's on TripAdvisor, I'm out.
Yeah. If you want to do the worst things in every city,
If
check
you want to pay the
TripAdvisor.
most for those things as well, do TripAdvisor.
If you want to look at a website that has the worst user interface, that looks like you're on MySpace in 2003,
And
check
you
out
have like someone
TripAdvisor.
named Karen like complaining that it like the tour wasn't comfortable enough for them. Like, why weren't the lions there? They're wild animals, lady.
They could be anywhere. Sorry, they weren't. Yeah, they didn't follow your safari
Now,
vehicle the
Steve,
whole
have you been
time.
to a restaurant where you're eating and you get done and they're like, "Hey, would you mind leaving a review on TripAdvisor?" And I'm like,
Yes, all the
"No.
time.
How did I not know this?"
And tours, yeah, tours will do that. They're like, "Will you review us on TripAdvisor?" And I'm like, "Who the hell is looking at TripAdvisor?" I'm like, "I'll leave you a
Yeah.
Google review because that's what I use." When I'm on TripAdvisor, I think I'm gonna get a virus on my computer. Like it looks so
Yeah.
shitty.
Like,
It's so disorganized too. Even if I wanted to find something on there, I don't know how I would. Like that shit is just shit all like I don't know if it's an advertisement or if it's real. Like it is just a mess.
and like this is the thing about when people ask for my review, you need to have your stuff in order. Like I don't know how many times I've been asked to give a review and it's like they can't like they're like, "Okay, well, I think you need to go to this website, you need to log in." And like, "Oh wait, actually it's this website over here. Can you put my name in?" I'm like, "Dude, you need to like give me a QR code. I'm scanning. I put 5 stars in my little sentence about how great you are." Like,
Yeah. I had a guy do that. He did a really good job. This was in
uh-huh.
Amsterdam on a
Yeah.
canal tour. He gave everyone a QR code, and he like told us, he's like, if I get the most reviews this month, like I win a trip to, I forgot what it was. But we're like, oh, so we're all like rooting for him at this point. We're like, we want you to, I think it was maybe like a soccer game or like, oh no, it was to the car racing thing, the
Oh,
F1.
cool.
And we're like, that sounds sick, dude. Yeah, like we all wanted him to go to the F1, so we're all happy to do it. And he just like made sure we all did it on our phones right there. So yeah, that was legit. But again, it's going to TripAdvisor, so that was the
Right. But
unfortunate
those
part.
tour guides, they're pros. I mean, I actually love that idea of like telling the people like, hey, like I have an incentive to get a review, like it helps me out personally, and if I had a
Mm-hmm.
good time on your tour, I'm like, dude, I will totally help you out. Like I couldn't imagine going on this tour like 1,000 times a year for like my job, like so like yeah, I'll help you out, no problem, bro. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this dude was awesome. He really sold us. He's like, I'm a huge F1 fan and all this stuff. So we're like, oh, this guy, we gotta do this for
yeah.
him. So, but yeah, but I like how this Reddit post says Google Maps is the best travel and tourism app, and I tend to agree. Honestly, I think Google Maps is my most used app on my phone. I mean, I use it for everything. I If I need a haircut, I type in haircut, and I know
Hmm.
where to find it. I know, there's reviews on there, there's pictures. For any restaurant, you can type in the type of food that you
Hmm.
want. Literally, Google Maps is all, and then it's all there on the map. Like you can see how close it is to you, the walking distance, the driving distance. And Google Maps is super legit, and there's so much data on there. Like everything is on there. Even when you're in some weird remote places, it helps me out substantially. You can download the maps and keep
Yes.
them offline. So I'll do that if I'm not going to have like good Wi-Fi or data, network service. Google Maps is
My
great.
favorite Google Maps feature is when you go to a city and it has like the little like beige yellow area that like signals walkable area. I'm
Oh
like, that's how I know where
yeah,
I'm going. Like I just know if I see those,
dude. We literally
if I see that, I'm just like,
yes,
yes, please. Like that's where I'm headed. Like that is like the perfect.
yes,
It's like such a good signal because it's like, yeah, you could look up a bar, you could look up a restaurant, but to look up like, hey, this is the area. Thank you.
yeah. We call that, Alita and I say that's the vibe area. Like, oh, okay, this is in the vibe area because it's in the orange, yellow, whatever little area on Google Maps. Dude, we will even try if we're getting a hotel or even an Airbnb for the month. Like, we'll try to be as close as possible to the vibe area, if not in the vibe area. Like, that's how we know where to hang out at when we
A
go to a
hundred
new
percent, and it
place.
really doesn't fail. Now, there's usually a couple vibe areas depending on the city. And maybe, it's hard to know which vibe
Yes,
area is
yes,
the
more than one.
vibiest, but like starting in any one of
Right,
them, you
right.
can't go wrong.
Yeah, yeah, it's always a good start. If you go to a vibe area, you don't necessarily need to have a plan. Like if you just want to walk around and see some stuff, maybe go into some stores, a bar, or a restaurant, like it'll be in that orange area. So yeah, that shit is
Yeah,
awesome.
no, and I don't even know how they come up with that. Like they must have some automated way to be like, okay, there's like 10 bars in one block, like vibe area. Like they must have some way to do that.
Yeah, I feel like it's like business areas, like if there's just a lot of businesses, because every city, depending on the size or whatever, but like there's not some of it's like residential, right? And some will have more businesses kind of congregated in one area, and I think yeah, Google Maps recognizes that and makes it that color. So love
Yeah, but
that.
I love, yeah, Google Maps doesn't fail. And another thing is too, like, if you're a tourism oriented business and you are on Google Maps, like you're doing it wrong. You need to get on there, you know?
Dude, yes, that's what I think. I'm like, if you're not on Google Maps, then I'm never gonna
Yeah.
find you. To be honest, that's my default. That's my go-to. I know some people use TripAdvisor or some other weird websites, but like if I'm in a new place and I'm looking for something, I type it into Google Maps. So if you're not on there, then you are
And
definitely
I
hurting your
mean, what's
business by
even
not
worse
being on
is
there.
you're not on there and you're only on TripAdvisor. Like, then I am like definitely never going.
Maybe it's a target market thing also. Like I'm gonna guess, I don't want to be
Yeah.
ageist, if that's a word, but the person who wrote this "I'm done with TripAdvisor" post, they had to be what age range would you guess that that person was in, or really just TripAdvisor users in
50 to
general? What age range
65.
are they? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking, somewhere
Or
around
just
there.
like, yeah, I don't know.
I
Yeah.
mean, and the thing is, with these 60-year-olds, Google Maps is so user friendly and intuitive. Like, if they just learned how to use that, they would be so much happier and their lives would be so much easier than trying to go on TripAdvisor and figure things out. It just makes their lives more
And
difficult.
this is the weird thing, right? It's like, do you just not know about Google, but you know about TripAdvisor? Is that even humanly possible? Is that possible to know? Like, oh, I've only literally in my browser on Internet Explorer, I've only put in TripAdvisor.com. I've never like Googled TripAdvisor. You know
I,
what I'm saying? Like, how is
no,
it
I
possible?
think they've Googled it. No, I think they've Googled it, and that's how they find TripAdvisor. Because TripAdvisor, I will say, their SEO game
Crazy,
is
crazy.
fire. I mean, they're always the number one result, which is ridiculous. So I think people find it through Google. They just may not know about Google Maps, and that's the
Crazy.
difference.
Crazy. Yeah, but like it's like you got it like but even if you do like okay, but maybe I guess if you live in such a small town, you don't need to Google where to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But again, this is for
Yeah.
traveling, right? TripAdvisor means that you're getting advised on your trip that you're
Yeah.
taking.
No, I
So I don't
meant the
know.
other way around like the business that is on TripAdvisor but not on Google Maps. Like how are you not on Google Maps but you're on
Oh,
TripAdvisor? Like that's the craziest part for me.
that that I don't know. And maybe it's something like other countries. It's super common. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, like like how is that like cuz this has happened to me before where it's like I've seen something on TripAdvisor or something and it's like okay, like now how do I get there? Oh, I don't know how to get there. It's not on Google Maps. I'm like, "Wait, how is
Yeah.
and it's like they'll have like the little like directions like okay, like go to the main square, take a right." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like I'm a tourist."
Yeah, like if you use TripAdvisor, you also need to pair that with like a physical map, which is just ridiculous. I mean, that's way out of my wheelhouse. Like that's just not going to happen for
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Like yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. So
fuck that.
that's crazy. But you're right. TripAdvisor. I mean, talk about going viral. They are gotta be one of the most viral apps ever.
Yeah, and that's why people use it and yeah, it's
But
not
I
for me.
can't think. Okay, what would be another non TripAdvisor?
I'm trying to think. I mean, if you're going to do like a tour or something like that, I know that you told me about Guru Walk
Yeah,
is good. Um, we'll use some other ones. Like Get Your Guide is another one. But honestly, I just don't really like websites like that. I just will use Google or Google Maps.
yeah, yeah. 100%. Or yeah, I mean sometimes Booking.com has stuff like because if I book something through Booking, which is kind of
Oh yeah.
becoming my favorite way to book accommodations, sometimes there's other stuff on there now. Like they're kind of creeping into that
Mhm.
space.
Yeah. Yeah. And Airbnb has some
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yes. So down with TripAdvisor. And
Yeah.
you know when you see like the little things on the window of like the restaurant where it's like, dude, back in 2016, we were number one on TripAdvisor.
Uh, yes, that's so funny. I'm just like, what does that even mean?
Like who rated you?
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah. Oh my God. All right. Should we talk about our myth of the
Yes, Dave.
day? Nomad. So our nomad myths that we're busting today is that being a digital nomad is expensive. So we're going to bust that myth by saying it's not always expensive. I can see why people think that because traveling can be expensive. When people take a vacation, they're like, okay, that's a lot of money. But the way that we do it, kind of this long term, full time travel is we can make it really cheap depending on where we go. You know, we live in cheap places, right? We're talked about the monthly Airbnbs. We try to find places that are equal or less than what we paid in rent in the US when we lived there. Some places are way cheaper than the month in the US, and we're not staying in like nice resorts or anything like that. Um, we do spend money on flights sometimes, but I like to think of it as travel is my hobby,
Mm,
and people have some expensive hobbies. I was thinking in Denver, like when we lived there, people spend thousands of dollars on skiing
mhm.
every year. I know because I did that myself when I was there. And there's other really expensive hobbies that people have. So, you know, when you think about if I was just living in one place in the US and I had one of those expensive hobbies, I think that, you know, buying a flight every month or two for me might still be less than that. So,
And with the flights thing, right? It's like usually, at least the way I go about it is like I'm flying like to places that are by me. It's like I'm kind of like hopping from like adjacent location to adjacent
mhm.
location. So it's not like I got to take a lot of times like 12-hour flight every single month.
Yep, I agree with that. And then yeah, we'll live in cheap places. So, you know, if we're living in Latin America, like things are going to be way cheaper there, or like here in Africa, way cheaper than they would be in the U.S. Or somewhere like that. So yeah, I think really after a year, yeah, besides like spending money on the flights or whatever, like we're saving a ton of money by not being in the US. But again, that's when we're in cheap places. I realize if you're in somewhere like Dubai, it's not the same story, and we'll go to places like that sometimes. But I do think we live in a lot of cheap places that
And
make it worth
honestly, the
it.
cheap places are like sometimes the coolest spots. Like it seems like the vast majority
Yeah,
of the places I'm
that's
like
fair.
I want to go, they are kind of the cheap places. I don't know if that's just like my mindset or something, but yeah, that's it. Kind of always works out
Yep.
that way for some weird reason. Or maybe just the vast majority of the world is cheaper than America. I don't know.
That's true. And obviously there's give and take, right? Like, yeah, we're in South Africa. It's super cheap, but at the same time, you got kids coming up to you asking you to buy them bread. It's dangerous to walk around
Hmm.
at night. So you know, it's not all roses when you're in the cheap places. There's definitely the cons that come along with that, but I think the good outweighs the bad in
But you
most
know,
cases.
like buying like $16 beers are also that's also a con. So like there's cons in America. Like
Yes.
um and the other thing about the
Yeah.
cheap places is just to like clarify, right? Since we don't maintain a residence in the US, we're not paying double rent either, right? So the Airbnb fee is like what we're paying. Like that's our entire living expense.
Right, exactly. So instead of paying rent, like I'm paying for my monthly Airbnb because I don't have a place in the US that I'm paying for. So that's important to note as well,
Which
for sure.
requires a full send, but like that's kind of what we're talking about on this podcast. Yes, yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
Steve, I love how you brought
100%.
up the haircuts
Yeah.
thing. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is to get haircuts in different countries. I love it. Like I love having a language barrier where basically they're just going to do the haircut that they do and you're just going to have to like it. Like you know, we're talking about Morocco a little bit later, but that was a monumental haircut experience for me. A lot of people like a lot of there's like this Arab haircut where they do like the shave around the side. You know what I'm saying? And I got that because it's like I can't really speak
Yeah.
Arabic and I'm not gonna try to like communicate too much. So I'm like, yeah, just give me that one. And that was a great experience.
Yeah.
So I
I love
love
that.
some of these things you got to find the fun in it. And for me, getting haircuts in weird spots is a pleasure.
So, yes, so that brings me to my little list I want to
Okay.
talk about. There are some things that are cheap in basically all other countries but the USA, and haircuts is one of them. I put that first on my list. Like the going rate for a haircut in other countries is like
Yeah.
$5. When I was in Denver, last time I was in Denver, I got a haircut, dude, in downtown Denver, and this guy cuts my hair. He spins his iPad around, and it's $65. Like with a straight face, he's like, that'll be $65. plus tip. And I'm just like, wow. So even not, it doesn't even have to be a cheap country necessarily. I've been to nice countries in Europe, $5 in Portugal. I went to Albania, it was $3. Sometimes maybe in the more expensive countries it'll be like $10, something like that, like in France or something. But that's something that has just gotten out of hand in the U.S. is haircut
Dude,
prices.
yes, yes. Dude,
Um,
one time I got a haircut Panama City on the side of a road. Like I was in like an office chair on the side of a road, $3, and it was a fire haircut. It was
$3.
awesome. I think there's like
Yeah,
a difference, and
yeah,
this is probably a deeper topic, but it's like in the US, I sometimes feel like being a barber, if you like at some of these places is like more of a stepping stone thing, but like being a barber in some of these other countries is like, this is what I do, I'm like the town's barber. And I feel like it's just so much better
yes.
in that, like, and they just do such a great job. They take pride in their work. Like it's great. Like,
Oh,
but if I go to
totally.
Great Clips here, I know it's gonna be a
Yeah,
bad haircut. I just know it is. Or I gotta go pay $65.
yeah, yep. And even great clips these days is like $20 at this point. So still paying more for not a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
haircut.
Now the one in Morocco was kind of sketch
Um,
because I'm like, okay, I'd love to get my hair cut. And he's like, okay, great, sit down. Yeah. And I'm like, how much is it? And he's like, you pay whatever you want at the end. And I'm like, oh, I know. I know how this ends. I know how this ends. Of
yeah,
course, obviously, at the end,
yeah,
I try to pay whatever I want. He's like, well, that's not enough. And so I had to pay double what I
of
wanted,
course.
but it was still like $10.
Yeah, yeah,
But like, I knew I knew I was about to get gringo taxed, and like sometimes there's nothing you can do about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll have to give people some tips at some point. I think a big one is agreeing to a price
Yes.
up front for things like
Yes.
this. Because after the service is done, then they'll just ask you for anything. I think I told you about the snake
Oh
charmers in
yes. I had the
Morocco,
same experience.
but we'll save that. We'll save that to the when we talk about
Yeah, okay,
Morocco in a
okay.
minute. So my other big one on this list, and I'm not going to say everything on this list, but I do want to talk
Okay.
about Ubers. Okay, Ubers in Latin America are, I mean, like a tenth of the price. I don't know, that might be exaggerating. We'll say a fifth of the price that they would be for the same trip
Mm-hmm.
in the US. I mean, the typical Uber ride that I'm taking here in South Africa is like $2, $3. I mean, in the US, if you take a 5 minute trip, like it's minimum going to be $10 at this point. Ubers are so cheap in these types of countries that I'll try to tip and I hit the limit. Like Uber won't let me tip any. The tipping options, like translated to US currency, it's like 25 cents, 50 cents, or 75 cents. And I'm like, I want to tip this guy $5. And Uber will literally not, like, I'll type in custom tip and they're like, no, that's too high. Like, I can't even tip high enough for these guys. So that is something that there's a big difference in price between the US and
Uber
here.
is
So,
the worst ride sharing app. I mean, if you go to Asia, you got like Grab and Kareem, and those apps are awesome. Like Uber, it's like so hard. Like I don't know if you notice, like so hard to like cancel. Like if you like make a mistake,
yeah,
or it's generally more expensive. If you use like the local ride sharing apps, it always seems to be a better user experience for me.
that's a good idea. I've been too lazy. Sometimes I'm just too lazy to like download a new app, so I
Yeah,
just use
yeah.
Uber. But that's good. That's good
Or
to
you
know.
ever had people where you call the Uber
Um,
and they're like, "Hey man, will you cancel and I'll let you pay half price if you give it to me in cash?" Yeah.
no, I've only had like in the Dominican, they're like, hey, you have to pay me. Like if I come pick you up, you have to pay me more. Like the DR, like they figured out that it's the Uber rates are way too cheap. So the drivers will be like, they'll text you before and be like, here's what you need to pay
Wow,
me.
okay.
Yeah. So I guess I've had the opposite, but I like what you're saying because I know Uber takes a cut. So it's like if you just do it off the books, then they'll
Yeah,
get a
cuz
better deal for both
exactly,
of
it's like a
us, right?
win-win, right? So I'm okay with that. I'm cool.
Yeah,
I'll roll with
yeah,
that as long as I have.
yeah,
Again, this goes back
totally.
to the convenience thing. As long as like I have the cash, or like you make it easy for me to do this.
My other big one, and obviously, okay, I should say, like, of course, everything's cheaper when you're in Latin America than it is in the US, but these are things that are like, I want to talk about that are substantially cheaper, right? Like, you could nitpick, obviously, like, it's just going to be a little bit less if you're on the Mexican peso over the US dollar, but these are things that are like substantially, I think, different, and that's why I'm bringing them up. So the other one is wine. If you're in Europe, even again, not in a cheap country necessarily, like bottles of wine in the store are like $2, $3, $5, and the cheapest wine in the US now I feel like is like $15 a bottle. And that's for like the shittiest stuff. If you want like a decent bottle, you're looking at whatever 40, 50.
Yeah.
I don't really know, but yeah, like for instance, here in South Africa, the other day I bought three award-winning bottles of wine for $18 total. So this was like the best wine you could get, and three bottles for $18 total. So I just think wine, and I just remember seeing it in Europe, like they had like dollar
Yeah.
bottles of wine and stuff like that, which yeah, probably not the best quality, but if you just want to be cheap about it, you're not going to get, yeah, there's not going to be cheaper ways to buy wine. So
And cheap wine, I mean, that's something I'm always gonna need. Like, I love cheap wine.
yeah, me too. Other things I had on the list were like just drinks, like cocktails, beers. I remember like I was in happy hour in Vancouver, which is a pretty expensive city, just kind of like an expensive US city. And they're like, okay, on happy hour, the beers are $7, $7. And that's Canadian dollars. So that's
Oh,
like even
right,
more than
right.
US. Um, so yeah, and that was like and that happens in the US all the time too. They're like, oh, for happy hour, you get a glass of wine for $10. And I'm like, wait, that's happy. Because normally it's like, now cocktails in the US are getting to ridiculous. They're like $22 for a cocktail and shit like that. Whereas like a beer in a Latin American country is like a dollar or like two, maybe three at most. So that's just something that's getting out of hand in the US.
Dude, yeah, the drinks, dude,
Tipping,
yeah, the
another,
drinks are crazy in Miami. They're ridiculous.
yeah, it's just getting stupid. It's like not like if you're at a restaurant and you drink alcohol, like it makes your whole meal double the price, if not more, depending on how many drinks
Yeah,
you
do I
get.
want the sandwich or do I want a drink? The only thing we got going for us is we got free
Yeah,
tap water.
that is the one thing. Yeah, we'll have to do another episode about things like that we take for
Ooh,
granted
yeah.
in the US because there are a lot of things that other countries just
Yeah,
don't have, like garbage disposals,
yeah.
that we'll have to talk about at some point. Other things I had were just
Dude, I
tipping
got it.
culture
There's
isn't
this
always a
tipping
thing in other
thing. This tipping
countries.
thing we got to talk about,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I'm really confused coming back
Okay.
to the US because on my bill it says, okay, this is how much I pay for all the items, and then this is like the tax, and then this is the service charge, and then there's like a tip box. And I get really confused. I'm like, wait,
Mm.
so if the service charge is on there, does that mean tip is included? Or I need a tip more beyond that? I'm so confused. I don't know what the right thing to do is. Have you
Oh,
noticed that? I mean, maybe it's been a while since you've been
I don't
back,
know.
but
Yeah. No, I haven't. Sometimes it is the tip that is included, but they always, that's the thing, they always leave room for you to write because you can tip more. You don't have to, but they're like, oh yeah, if you want to tip even more on top of that service charge, yeah, I don't think you have to tip more, but they'll always leave that line there for you to write something in. And a lot of people probably don't notice that it's
yeah,
already included. So they'll just tip back. I've definitely done that. And then I'm pissed later. I'm like, oh wait, why did I
dude.
tip more?
This is, I
But
mean, this is a
whatever.
salesman move, so I gotta appreciate the hustle. But they'll be like, yeah, well, the service charge, yeah, that goes to the service staff, but the tip additionally is just for me. I'm like, but aren't you on the
Oh,
service team?
yeah.
Like, yeah, so
Yeah. That's
I
a
don't
good
want to like
move.
sound, like a
But
penny
I can never
pincher,
feel
but it's
too
just like
bad.
there's a little bit of ambiguity
Oh
here.
yeah.
Like just tell me how much.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I can never be too mad because at the end of the day, I'm helping someone
Yeah.
out, I'm tipping someone. Like even if I over tip, like it's not the end of the world because whatever, I helped someone out. So
Right.
what can I do? But what else? Medicine, ibuprofen. I bought like a whole bottle of Advil for 25 cents in Peru. And then flying around Europe, obviously, like flights are just super cheap. We kind of talked about
Mm-hmm.
Ryanair. We don't have anything like Ryanair in the US. Like, I feel like if you want to fly to another state, it's kind of expensive these days, whereas it's super affordable in Europe and
Mm-hmm.
other
Mm-hmm.
countries. So, which brings me to our Nomad hack of the day, just because it's kind of in the same vein, but I want to talk about shoulder season. So, if you don't know about shoulder season, this is just before or after the peak season in certain places. So maybe it's a vacation type of destination or somewhere where people might spend their holiday time, usually in the summer or the warmest time of the year. So I know, like on the Mediterranean, I think maybe you have some
Yep.
examples of this. I know I do, but maybe their peak season is July, August, June, July, August, right? So then you would go in like April, May, or you could go right after August, like
Mm-hmm.
September, October. So the key is going when the weather is still nice. So it's not the peak season. So, but the weather's still warm enough. It's still nice enough to go there, but all the tourists aren't flooding there. So there's benefits to this. There's not as many tourists and people around. There's not as many crowds, and then obviously the rates of like the hotels and Airbnbs, everything is way
Mm-hmm.
cheaper because it's not the
Yeah.
peak season. But like, I don't know, for whatever reason, people aren't going at that time. So for me as a nomad, like I can go whenever I want. And so I will always go, or at least try to plan it so I'm there during the shoulder
A
season.
hundred percent. 100%. Like I I think one thing in Europe is like traveling any European related destination in August is really there's a lot of tourists because every European has like all of August off. So it's like yeah, like so I
Oh,
used to work with, people from, at this European company and it's like they literally have all of August off and so that's why they're always going places in August.
oh, okay. That I did not know.
So
That's a
it's
good
like this
tip.
combination of like the shoulder season in relation to the place you're going, what is the best time to go to that place, and then also like when does everyone
Yeah.
else also travel in general.
Nice. Okay, that's a good
Yeah.
hack. Yeah, my example, my shoulder season example that I always think of is Turkey. We were on the southern coast of Turkey near the town of Kaş and rented this just incredible villa, like 3 bedrooms, private pool, 2 private hot tubs, just an incredible view overlooking the Mediterranean. I mean, this place was like some baller gangster shit. Like if I was in a different if I was in a different country, I would not be able to afford this whatsoever. But even in peak season in Turkey, probably not. But we stayed there for an entire month, and it was like $1,500 for the month. Which if you want 3 bedrooms for a month anywhere in America at any time of year, you're probably not going to be able to
Yeah.
get that price. Um, so yeah, and that was during shoulder season. It was like April, May, and there weren't like a lot of tourists around. But right after we left, that was going to be the peak tourist season. And then we looked up the price of our place, and it was like way more when it was in the
Wow.
peak season, right? Like $4,000, some 5,000. I don't remember, but way more, and would have been out of our budget. But because we were there in shoulder season, it was very affordable.
Nice. That's awesome. And it's probably still great. I mean, May is great time to go. Like probably. Yeah.
Dude, it was awesome. Like the water was a little cold if we wanted to get into the ocean, but other than that, I mean, we didn't even need jackets or whatever, walking around in shorts. It was
Nice,
great.
nice. Yeah, mine's similar. Like Santorini's super touristy, obviously. It's hard to escape that, but I think we went like late September, early October, and it was actually like pretty calm and peaceful and there wasn't a ton of people. And yeah, the water's a little cold and some things are closed, but at least it's not like a sea of people where you can't do anything and like have fun at all. Like,
Yeah,
and it made the experience like
yeah,
way better, in my opinion.
yeah. Love that, especially in a super touristy place like Santorini. I feel like it makes the experience way better when there's not
Because
tourists
like a place
everywhere.
like that is like if you do go during peak time, it's almost like it might like kind of like ruin your experience unless you throw down a lot of money and you're in like an exclusive place where you don't have to like mingle. Like, yeah, it can be difficult.
Agreed. All right, so that's our tip of the day is shoulder season. If you've never heard of that, then look it up and just look up the peak season of where you want to go, and then just go like a month
Yeah,
before or
yeah,
after that peak
perfect.
season. Um, but let's get to our location highlight of the day. Again, this is a place that you and I have both been, Jack, and it is the beautiful city of Marrakesh, Morocco. I wanted to talk about this one because it's really trendy right now on social media. I've just seen all the travel influencers. Everyone's talking about Marrakesh. Everybody's going there these days. So I thought it'd be a good one for us to discuss, especially from the nomad long term travel point of view. But yeah, we can
Yeah,
talk about it.
I love this city. I love this was such a cool city to go to in my opinion. Morocco in general, but this is by far my favorite city in Morocco for so many different reasons, and I'm glad we're highlighting this one. This place was awesome.
All right, give me some of your reasons, Jack. Let's
All
hear it.
right, well, I feel like the food first of all was really good. Like I I don't know about you, but I loved eating. I think I ate a tagine every single day I lived in Marrakesh.
Yeah,
Where in a tagine, I don't even
me
I'm probably
too.
gonna butcher the explanation, but it looks like a pot that is like sort of it's sort of like it looks like an hourglass type of pot, and they put different stuff in the pot like one of the most common ones is like lemon, chicken, different like olives and vegetables,
That's a
and
good
with like a
one.
little bit of water,
Oh, yeah.
and then they put that in the oven to cook it, and it comes out and you like open it up and you get like the waft of the smell and you kind of get to eat it in the container, and it's great. And I looked, I was like, why is this a thing in Morocco? And it's because in the desert there's limited water. And so this is a way to cook things without using too much water. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll
I did not
upload
know
some
that.
photos. Like when we do this, I took like so many different pictures of different tagines, and I love it. Was just like such a cool, such a great meal. I loved eating that.
It is it is super fun. Yeah, it's like a cone shaped thing, and then but they'll serve it to you on your table with the cone thing on top, and then they'll like it's like a big reveal. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
what's the tagine gonna look like? And it's like, oh, it's always a fun moment.
And like the
Yeah.
fancier the place, the bigger the tagine, I feel like, or the more like ornate the top. Like a simple spot, will be
Oh
like
yeah,
it'll be like kind
yeah.
of like normal looking, like brown, still amazing. But then you'll go to like a fancy place and it's like,
Mhm.
pff, like oh, like just looks crazy.
Yeah, it's like bedazzled and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And so tagine's great, and then obviously the Moroccan mint tea, the national drink of Morocco,
So
so
good.
good.
Oh my god, it's so and they serve it to you everywhere. Like it's just like the welcome drink. If you check into a hotel, they're like, "You want some mint tea?" And at that point, like I've already had like 5 that day. I'm like, I'm honestly good, but like thank you. But that shit is amazing. Like the best tea, I'm like not even a big tea guy, but my favorite tea in the world is
I
Moroccan
agree. I
mint.
think Moroccan mint tea made me a tea guy. I mean, we're Americans, so I feel like it's just not a big culture thing in America, but it's really turned me on to
Yeah.
tea when I was there because it smells, it's not like mint. Like,
Yeah.
I think the mint must be fresh, or it must be, because it has such a good genuine smell
It
to it.
is.
It's really not like, it doesn't smell like a cheap mint or like a peppermint or something like that, overpowering.
No, it's it's definitely fresh. I know because we were checking into an Airbnb and our host it was where you had to meet the host, which is my least favorite type of Airbnb. But he was like, "Hey, can you meet me? I'll meet you guys like at this part of in Marrakesh, whatever." And we're like, "Okay." So we meet this guy. He's like, "Oh, sorry, 1 second. I need to buy something from the market." Because we were right outside this Moroccan market. And he comes out with a big bundle of mint leaves. So it is, he's like, oh, this is for the mint tea that I'm going to make for you guys. And so at that point, we couldn't refuse his mint tea because we just saw him like buy it, and then he goes back and makes it for us with the fresh mint. So yeah, it
Dude,
was
so
awesome.
good. And tea has changed my life in a way because I've never been, or I try not to be like a soda drinker. And you can't just
Oh yeah,
drink caffeinated drinks all like I can't just be drinking coffee at 8 p.m. at night and I also don't want to always just drink
yeah.
water. So it's like both juices from Latin America and like teas have become like the thing like okay, I can drink these two things if I want to like a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, if I drink Coke every day, like I will, it's gross. I just can't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But Steve, did you
anyway, the orange
yes.
orange juice
No, go
there
ahead.
is the other big one that I loved. They always had fresh squeezed orange juice, and there were vendors on the streets everywhere that had the orange juice. So that
Now,
shit
did
was
you
really
ever have
good.
the moment where they sell you the orange juice, but like it's not a throwaway cup and you like give the cup back to them and you're like wondering like, did they actually clean this cup? Because I don't see any place like where they could have cleaned the cup.
Probably not.
Like
Yeah,
that was always in the back of my
I don't
mind.
know. Damn, I don't know. I think I just used really, bad plastic and just made the environment worse whenever I bought it from those
Okay.
guys. But that's a good point. They probably didn't wash it, but we'll leave that one like, we'll just leave that one up to someone else to answer, and we'll just,
A
ignorance
little
is bliss,
seasoning,
Jack.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the orange juice was great.
What else?
Okay,
What
for
else do we
me,
got?
I do enjoy
Yeah.
coffee, and I felt like it was really cool having like the espresso street vendors. So it's like it would look like a little street food
Mm.
cart, and they would have like a solar panel on top, and they would just be making espressos for like 25 cents. Just go, here's an espresso. And I was like, this is so
That's
good.
fire.
Yes.
Um, Something I got from a street vendor in Marrakesh, because they kind of have the French vibes, the French influence there, was snails. I bought like escargot from a street vendor and just he had a big bucket. He's just stirring up all these snails. So I was just ripping snails from this guy. Probably a sketch, going back to like my pig's feet story. Like maybe probably should have questioned that a little bit more. But yeah, ate some snails right there on the street.
They were
And they were
so nothing bad.
delicious.
So it was also nothing bad happened, and they actually tasted good, unlike the pig's feet.
Yeah, yeah. It was a double win.
Wow.
Yeah,
And that's yeah. So the food, I mean, we've covered the food. Like the food and the drink in Morocco is bomb. It's incredible. The olives that you would see like in the market too were so good. Like they just had everything.
yeah. So what else? The areas. So there's Medina, which is the old town. I don't know why in Morocco they call them Medinas. I don't know if they say that in other countries, but that's kind of the old town, and it's just a bustling, just in so much to see. I mean, it is like the most visually stimulating. There's just shit going on everywhere. Like those places are
And
just
it's cool how
crazy.
it's like they're like sectioned. So it's like, oh, this is the like place where you buy the light fixtures. This is like the carpet area. This is like the food part.
Yeah,
Like it was cool how like it was
yeah,
situated like that. And everyone's yelling at you. And it's kind of a maze. I
yes.
believe it's
That
actually
was
designed to be a maze. So like when they would get invaded, it would be very difficult for the invaders to figure out where they were going.
okay. I like that. And people are like, oh, you'll get lost in the Medina. I'm like, I just use Google Maps. Like Google Maps has the Medinas in there. You can just use Google Maps and sort it out. But yes, that shit is really fun. I guess we'll talk about our snake experience. So here's mine. And I didn't want to be too touristy there. I didn't want to label myself in a place like that as like a major tourist idiot, because like they'll smell that on me. These people will just come at you with all sorts of necklaces and shit
Any
that they
little
want to
bit of
sell you if
weakness.
you make yourself unknown. Yeah, exactly. But dude, the snake charmer thing, I was like, all right, this is just the one thing. I want to get like a picture. He had the cobras and he's making them dance and stuff. And um, so I guess we'll talk about the square grader after this. But I got a picture with the cobra, and this was one that I just got too excited. I forgot to do the agree on a price up front thing, and I remember he's like, he takes a picture for us, whatever, and I give him like some small, just like what you would tip someone with, like a couple bucks, or whatever, something like that. And these guys start. They were so nice to us before. They're like, "Oh, don't worry, don't be scared of the snake. Like it's all good." And they were so friendly to us. And then as soon as I paid this guy, like they start freaking. They're like, "What? That is not enough." He goes 45. It was 450, which was like $45 American. I'm like, dude, I'm not giving you
Yeah.
$45 for this shit. Like all you did was take a picture of me. I didn't even touch the snakes because I didn't want to. Snakes actually really
Yeah.
freak me out. It was just like me in the background, like it's the snake and then me in the background behind it. I think you got a
Yeah,
similar
well, we should
picture,
put them
Zach. But
up. We'll
yeah,
put
this
them
dude
up
wanted a
side by
lot.
side.
Yeah, we'll put them up. We'll put them up side by side. So, what was your experience
No,
with
same
snake
kind of
guys?
thing. Well, my thing was also, I was like, dude, I don't know if I should do that. Like, the person I was with at the time was like kind of pro animals, and we realized that it's not like super like
Um,
what they're doing is not like the most chill thing ever. But I kept walking by and looking at it. I was like, dude, I gotta like, and they're already like, if you look, like they are on you. Like you can't even, you got to like pretend they're not there. So like since I was already looking and walked by a couple times, like I knew I was like gonna get sucked in. So eventually I was like, all right, like I'll just do it, whatever. I'll take the photo. And the same thing happened to me. I think I gave him like 200 or whatever, and that like wasn't even close to being enough. And then at some point I was like, dude, I'm actually, that's all I'm paying you. And I just walked away. Sometimes you have to like kind of like, it's like the kids in Africa, like what you were saying, like that's okay, but these guys are, they're professionals. They're trying to take you for everything.
you got to walk away at some point. Hopefully, they don't stick the snake on you. That's the only scary part. Is they have a venomous snake. If you don't pay them enough, they could be like, "Go
Well,
get that
Steve, I did
guy."
some research post that, and they actually take the teeth out of those. Yeah. Yes.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So
Because there's no way you can legally just have a dangerous snake running around the busiest square
yeah.
in Africa.
Yeah. No,
No way.
literally. Yeah. 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 And the reason why they
Yeah.
actually
Okay.
go up when they, because I like when I was listening to the like Snake Charm, I'm like, man, they're kind of out of tune and it's not really a good song. And now I'm not trying to say snakes need like a banger like song or anything like that, but I'm just like, it
Hmm.
doesn't even sound musical. And so I look it up, right? And they're like, well, the reason why they do that is because this is kind of messed up. They're starving. And so like they're trying to eat. Yeah.
Oh,
So like this is not to like ruin like things that like, but
uh,
like I was like,
it was already ruined for me. Yeah, it was already ruined from the
okay,
get go.
yeah.
So,
But you are right. It is the busiest square in Africa.
damn. Okay.
It is a clusterfuck.
Yes, that square is one of the most fun things I've ever been to. I mean, it's again just crazy. There's people playing
There's
music, street
monkeys.
performers everywhere. Dudes in there's monkeys. There's like dudes in Mickey Mouse, like the full like mascot outfits
Yes.
walking around. There's food that they say not to eat when you're in that square. Sorry, what was the name? What was the
It's
name of the
like
square?
Gemma El Fana or something. I don't know how to
Gem
pronounce it.
Elphanop. But yeah, biggest square in Africa. That
And
shit
at
is lit.
night, it's like all the food vendors come out and they got a bunch of crazy stuff.
Yes, at night is a different experience. Everything's just like glowing. It's so much
Yeah,
fun.
no, it's crazy. Yeah, it is like it's like what you were saying about the Medina. Like it's like sensory overload.
Yes, 100%. Um, but yeah, that shit. If you're in the Medina or that square, it can get old. So I think if you're doing long-term travel and you want to be there a long time, maybe don't spend too much time in there because yeah, after a couple days you're going to be like, okay, I'm going insane because you're just like walking around in circles and that like you said, it's
Hmm.
a maze and it just gets old. But there's other cool neighborhoods in Marrakesh, and I know there's the French neighborhood. So that neighborhood was awesome. Yeah, lots of French influence, super nice and like modern, I'd say, for
Yes.
Morocco. So that was a really cool area
Now,
too.
my favorite thing I did in Morocco, Steve, I don't know if I've told you this story. I went to a hammam. Okay. Okay.
Oh.
And basically, it's like a Roman bath house style situation. And you walk in, and it's like walking into a locker room in a way, but like a cool Roman vibe, you know?
Hmm.
And you check in and you strip down to your underwear and you get assigned a guy who, like, he's like a guy who works in the baths, and basically he washes you. He like literally scrubs you. Lay down on the floor of this bathhouse with a bunch of other dudes around you. Everyone has their own guy assigned to them, and this guy is going to town on your skin. I mean, he is ripping your skin off. He is washing every part of your body, and they're all like laughing at me because like I'm clearly uncomfortable, you know? Like I'm clearly like I've never been washed by another dude before. Like this is like a little bit weird for me, and they're all fine with it, and they're getting washed in all sorts of places, and I was like, I don't want that, really. I just want, like, just give me like give me like the light version of this.
He's like, yeah, he's like, how deep do you want me to go? Like, is that like like you got to stop? Like, no, you don't need
Yeah,
to go
yeah, like
that
I'm
deep,
good. Like I'm
bro.
I'm
Like
actually
that
okay
kind of
with
thing.
being a little dirty. It's fine. Like I'm a backpacker. Like
uh,
and it's hilarious,
yeah.
right? Because I'm there getting, I don't want the word violated is the wrong word, but I'm just out of my comfort zone getting scrubbed by another man. And
Right.
there's this guy next to me, and we're just having a conversation while he's getting scrubbed and I'm getting scrubbed. And we're just talking, and I'm like learning about what he's up to. And he's like, yeah, I come here like once a week to get this done. And it was
Hmm.
a surreal experience. It was like, that then sometimes they would do like a cold water bucket on me, and then they would scrub me some more, then hot water on me, and it was a crazy back and forth. And when I got done, I swear to you, I had never been that clean before in my entire life. In my entire life, at that moment, right when I walked out of that bathhouse, that was the cleanest I've ever been.
How long was the whole process? Are we talking like an hour,
Probably like
30
45
minutes?
minutes. And I didn't have to wait. Like I
Okay.
wasn't
Yeah.
waiting, and like the guy was like excited that like he got assigned to me because like obviously like I had no idea what I was doing. Like I showed up in my swim trunks because I don't know what else am I going to do, right? And like everyone else is
That
not in
sounds
their
right.
swim
Yeah,
trunks,
sure.
cuz like they do this, they know what's happening. And I'm like, dude, I'm a swim trunks guy. I've been a swim trunks guy. And so that was a
Hmm.
definitely it was a really cool experience that happened in Marrakesh, and I'm glad I got to do that. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Well, I know that in Islam, being clean is part of their culture. Like that's kind of how they measure holiness. Like maybe that's even where the term like cleanliness is next to
ooh, okay.
holiness comes from. But I know in Islam, they love cats. Like cats are their favorite pet because cats clean themselves. Like they're super clean. So I know that's just a big thing in that culture. And so yeah, I mean, you can't get much cleaner than a hammam, like you said. So that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, so yeah, I was clean afterwards. And I was thinking like if I like lived in Marrakesh for or anywhere, and I guess I'm sure Hammam is not, just about that place, but I would be down to do it. I feel like I get now that I know what I'm up against and how good I felt afterwards. I could make that a
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, get the subscription, man. Get the weekly
Yeah.
every,
Five
get
bats
in
for
there.
four for the price of four? I don't know.
Yeah, they have like a one of those cards, like the like stamp cards where they like clip it and then like your 10th cleaning is free. Your 10th
Here, we
hammam
better
is
hold the
free.
card for you. You're about to get soaked. So we'll hold on to this for you in the office.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I know I've kind of seen it in other places, but I know in Morocco, it's definitely, I think it's where it started, and it's still a huge thing there. But yeah, get a hammam if you want to get yourself clean. If you've messed up recently, maybe you've sinned. Instead of like
Just
confessing to a priest or
yeah.
something like that, just you'll feel a lot cleaner if you have a guy scrubbing your
Yeah,
car.
exactly. And you know what? He's a professional, so you know that it's going to be done right.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you're paying for it, so I
Yeah.
would hope so.
Yeah. So,
Good shit. All right, what else? You got anything else on
I think one thing in
Marrakesh?
Morocco's in general that I think maybe people don't super know is that every city sort of has a color. So Marrakesh is the red city. And so if you notice in the Medina and a lot
Red
of the
City.
buildings are red. And then we went to a different city called Chefchaouen, which I always used to call the Smurf city because it was like Smurf blue. Every building was like the Smurf blue color. And then
Yep, and then Casablanca is the white city because it literally means it's
yes,
White House.
yes, and Tangier as well, up by Spain, is also white. And
Oh, okay, multiple
the
white
things you
cities.
can do
Okay.
with authoritarian government, you can make all the buildings the same color. So
There's one benefit. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, because I think they said in Marrakesh like you can't build a new building unless there's some red on it,
oh
or you got to have like, or at least certain zones of the city, like probably the older town. They're like, no, we got to keep up this reputation. You can't build something
oh
that's not
wow,
red.
okay.
It is. And you know what else is trending? Hopefully, us after you like like and subscribe to our Instagram and TikTok and
And
YouTube
Spotify.
accounts and Spotify. You can follow us on Spotify. I found out recently. You can probably do that on Apple Music and Amazon Music. I don't really, yeah, I think you can, but yeah, you can follow us on all that stuff. So do that, and that would be sick. And also, feel free to message us if you guys want us to talk about anything. If you have any stories, any tips that you want to share, let us know. We'll talk about them on our fantastic
Yeah, and
podcast.
if there's any, inaccuracies that we blabbed about, please let us know. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Please correct us. I know people on the internet love correcting people. I saw one person on Reddit, instead of asking a question, because they may not get an answer, they will just say the wrong answer to the question that they want, and someone's more likely to correct them, come in and correct them, because people like correcting people more than they like helping people. So if you just ask the question, you won't get a response. But if you if you answer it yourself and it's wrong, someone will correct you. So that's a little
Wow.
hack for you.
I guess that's a little bit of a shame, but like,
Yeah, well, it's the world we live in. So, all right, well, with that, what do we got to say, Jack?